Welcome to Conceal and Carry School. We've brought 9 students together and have put them through an intense tactical handgun class in the heart of Texas. Though each individual story is unique, they have all found personal empowerments in their own separate ways. Today, we'll hear Chris Bird's story. Chris isn't just an instructor at TacPro. He's also a student.
My name is Chris Bird. I was born in England. I write and publish books about guns, conceal carry. I wrote the Conceal handgun manual. I've always been a handgun shooter. I used to shoot in England when it was still legal.
In the 1960s, Bird was stationed in Berlin, West Germany, and Belgium, serving as company weapon training officer in the Royal Military Police of the British Army.
After that, I moved to Canada, where I spent about 17 years, first as a ranch hand, later as a newspaper man, and then as a TV reporter.
A long-standing competitive shooter, in 1986, Bird competed in the Canadian Practical Pistol Championships.
I met a Texan in Vancouver, married her, and got down to Texas as soon as I could.
In the late 1980s, he and his wife sailed a 27-foot boat from Vancouver, Canada, to Sydney, Australia, and back to San Francisco. Soon after arriving in Texas in 1989, he began working as a police reporter for the San Antonio Express-News.
This was the time when concealed carry was being argued about in the legislature, and I was told to do some articles on it.
Currently the director of the Texas Concealed Handgun Association, Chris Bird has a long history with firearms and personal defense.
The ownership of a gun does not mean that you're some sort of cowboy who's going to go out and shoot people. What it means is that you have the most effective form of self-defense.
Despite his age, Chris Bird continues to enroll in regular firearm training to keep his skills sharp. As much as many of us might like to find it, there is no one place devoid of criminal activity in the world. Even in America, where it's easy to find a community with a lower crime rate, the simple fact remains crime does and will exist. But depending on your state and city laws, you may or may not have the proper right to defend yourself. Chris Bird has long believed that every man, woman, and child should have the basic right to defend themselves. Up next.
I thought it was an accident. So did everybody else in the restaurant. Then we heard gunshots.
Today we'll take another look at the Luby's massacre and how this one incident that took the lives of 22 people changed Texas gun laws to what they are today. And later, Chris takes some time off the range to meet with the students. All that and more right after this. Washington, D.C. has very restrictive gun control laws, but often has one of the highest murder rates in the nation. According to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, in the 25 years following the D.C. gun ban, the murder rate in our nation's capital has increased 51%, even while the national rate decreased 36%. Are you beginning to get the picture? Welcome back. Today we've been learning more about TacPro instructor and published writer Chris Bird. Chris has dedicated most of his life to firearms, as well as the preservation of an individual's right to carry a weapon and defend themselves. But what's inspired him to take this path in life? Killeen, Texas, October 1991. A pickup crashed through the front window of Luby's cafeteria. The driver soon got out of the vehicle and began randomly shooting people.
I was waiting for the guy to say something like, "Everybody put your wallets up on the table." But the shooting continued. And then I realized a few months earlier I had made what I still consider to be the stupidest mistake of my life.
Susanna Gracia Hupp normally carried a gun in her purse, which was illegal at that time in the state of Texas. But on that day, she had decided to follow state laws and left her .38 Special back in her car.
The guy had complete control over the situation. Rushing him was not a simple thing to do.
At this point, stranded without a weapon, Susanna's 71-year-old father, Al Gracia, decided to take action.
And he said, I've got to do something. He's going to kill everybody in here. He went at the guy. But the man saw him coming and simply turned and shot him.
As her father lay mortally wounded, someone broke out a window, providing a precious escape route. Susanna reached for her mother and raced toward the exit.
When I got out that back window, I turned around to say something to my mother and realized she hadn't followed me out.
The attacker walked up to Susanna's mother while she held her husband and shot her in the head. Soon thereafter, police arrived. The attacker moved into the back of the restaurant and took his own life. So what can a normal person do to legally protect themselves? If you're Susanna Gracia Hupp, you take on Congress.
She didn't blame the gun. She also didn't lay a lot of blame on the shooter. She blamed the legislators who had legislated away her right to have a gun to defend herself and her parents.
From the Texas legislature, Susanna fought the brave fight and helped pass legislation to ensure that honest people can arm themselves and carry concealed weapons.
She is probably the best witness for concealed carry that we have in this country today.
Soon after the concealed handgun laws were passed in the state of Texas, Chris Byrd began to write the Concealed Handgun Manual. As a longtime handgun shooter and a former crime reporter for the San Antonio Express-News, Chris was more than qualified to write on the subject of concealed firearms.
By telling the stories of people who have used guns to defend themselves, we get the message across that sometimes this is going to happen, and you need to have thought about it before.
The contents of this book contain everything a responsible gun owner would need to know, from how to choose a handgun, how to carry, and how to have the right mindset if you're ever in a firefight. In the text, Chris brings together the philosophies and tactics of many self-defense instructors.
It's basically a book of advice for people like you who are considering a concealed handgun license.
Chris, is there any times that you don't carry your gun concealed on you?
Every state that has concealed carry has a list of places where you may not go if you are carrying. Most states, including Texas, don't want you carrying in a bar. You will all have different requirements in terms of the law. And I would suggest when you get home, the first thing you do is find out what the laws regarding the use of deadly force are and how to get a concealed handgun license if that's possible in your state.